extend my warm welcome to all the participants and other dignitary guests in the second day of workshop on nanomaterial and its application in humans and environment. I would like to refer also to many initiatives that have been taken place yesterday talk by Dr. Karanjit Singh. Dr. Karanjit ji gave very intellectual and informative talk on the subjects of fundamental of nanomaterials, their synthesis and characterization techniques, along with some applications of nanomaterials. In extension of yesterday talk, our today's speaker, Dr. I.S. Sandhuji, Professor and Dean Chitkara University, Rajpura campus, will give his talk on the various applications of nanomaterials in human and environment. In this concern, I request Dr. Manish Garg, Head of the Physics Department of AS College, Khanna, kindly introduce to our today's spokesperson, Dr. I.S. Sandhuji. Over to you, Manish ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sab. Good morning, everyone. Our worthy President, Shri Rajiv Rai Mehta ji, respected Principal, Dr. R.S. Chandji ji, our keynote speaker of the day, Dr. Inder.
Sir, your voice is not audible, Manish ji.
Today is the second day of the online workshop on the nanomaterials and its applications for human and environment. First of all, I want to introduce all the participants with my college. AS College Khanna came into existence in 1946 and it is affiliated to Punjab University, Chandigarh. The college has received A+ grade in its first cycle of NAAC accreditation and A grade with CGPA 3.51 in its second cycle of NAAC accreditation. Besides career-oriented add-on courses, certificate, diploma, VIVO courses, the college offers graduation and post-graduation in arts, science, commerce, and computer streams. So nanotechnology has wide applications in the different areas of science and technology. For the detailed discussion on this topic, we are having with us Dr. Inderjeet Singh Sandhuji from Chitkara University, Punjab. Dr. Sandhu has been working for the last 25 years in the Chitkara University, Punjab. He has 25 years of teaching and research experience. He has made significant contributions in the field of nanomaterials and their application. Dr. Sandhu is decorated with Teacher of Outstanding Merit Award, Research Excellence Award, and Excellence Educational Leadership Award. He has published more than 100 research papers in national and international journals. Dr. Sandhu has 8 patents in his credit. He has written 2 books and 4 international book chapters. Dr. Sandhu has guided 8 PhD students, and Dr. Sandhu has been a member of various professional bodies and organizations. So we are very lucky that Dr. Sandhu is with us today. So now I request Dr. Sandhuji to share his valuable views with us. Over to Dr. Sandhuji.
Thank you, Dr. Manish.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning to all of you. So in today's lecture, I will try to tell you some of the application of the nanomaterials. So I will talk about the real applications, the applications which we have explored in our labs and which are really in the market. Because when we talk of the application of any, any concept, it is very important to connect the concept to the design and finally to the product. Because research is of no use until the research is not used for the welfare of mankind. So in this attempt, at our lab, Nanomaterial Research Laboratory at Chitkara University, we are synthesizing various nanomaterials. And our aim is to try these and to explore these nanomaterials for the applications in few of the leading factors. Just like the leading factors, human is one of the, just like that COVID-19, it is major problems. So we have to make our research to explore new things which can benefit our society, which can benefit our humans. And the other factor is the technology. And then one factor is no doubt is the agriculture products, because agriculture is also a very important sector. So with that, let me begin my presentation for today. Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, sir, audible.
So my topic of the presentation is nanotechnology concept to applications. So we'll try to understand that in the previous lecture, I hope that you have been given a wide view of the concept of nanotechnology and what is nanotechnology, what are nanomaterials. So we'll try to understand that how this concept can be used to develop applications. Okay, the outline of my talk is introduction to nanomaterials and classifications, some of the extraordinary behavior, and then material studied at the nanomaterial research lab, because I think the technique for nanomaterial synthesis has been discussed by Dr. Karamjit in detail. So I will not touch that topic much. Then nano products prepared at the nanomaterial research laboratory, and what is the concept behind those products, I will touch that. Then ethical consideration in the nano research. It is very important to understand that. And the nanotechnology startups. We must understand which are the startups which are working right now in the field of nanotechnology. So first is the nanotechnology. Everybody knows what is nano, 10 raised to power minus 9 meter. Everybody knows that atom is smallest. Even inside the atom, there are the subatomic particles. So it is not to be understood like that, that nano is a wonder. The atom is a wonder, then the nuclear physics and the atomic physics and then particle physics is a very far away on the this scale spectrum as compared to the nanomaterials. So when you say nanometer, 1 nanometer, if you place 10 hydrogen atom, it is just like 1 nanometer. So nanotechnology is just arranging the atom. So just exploring or playing with the atom. It is a technology where you can virtually play with the atoms. Okay, then do you know what is the nanoparticles? Then the concept is very important to understand. What are the grain, what is a particles? Basically, if you look at these pictures, it's a nanoparticle. It is consisting of the grain. And these grains, different grains, they are having the different sizes, right? And there is a grain boundary. This is the if you zoom this picture, it will look like this. This individual crystal is there then inside the grain. So it should be taken as this crystal, grain, and then the particles. Then classification of the nanoparticle. These are the 0-dimensional, 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional, and 3-dimensional. Already, I think Dr. Karamjit has covered these classifications. So the question is to confine the electron. So quantum confinement is there. The quantum confinement is in the 0 dimensions. There are 3 number of dimensions which are free. So it is called a 3-dimensional structures. So if you confine the electron in 1 direction and number of free direction are 2, it is called quantum well or superlattice. Similarly, if the confined direction are 2 and free direction is 1, it is 1 dimension. If you confine all the 3 directions, then there is a 0 direction which is free. It is called a 0 dimension or quantum dot or nanocrystals, which are of very important application nowadays. So why nanomaterials are extraordinary? So if I ask you one question, can you fabricate light emitting diodes from bulk silicon and germanium? Then answer should be no, because we cannot fabricate light emitting diode from bulk silicon and germanium. The reason is very simple, because when we excite electron from valence band to conduction band in these materials, then after causing conduction, when the electron return back, unfortunately it gets trapped in the defect state in between the valence band and conduction band. So hence the energy is dissipated in the form of other than the light energy. So we cannot fabricate diodes, light emitting diodes from silicon and germanium, LEDs from silicon and germanium. Yes, it is possible with the nanotechnology to make these materials which can, this technology can enable these materials to work as light emitting diode. How? I will show you. The 2 main reasons for this extraordinary behavior exhibited by the nanomaterials are quantum confinement effect and large surface to volume ratio. Now, if you have gone through the subject of laser, if you talk of the Nd:YAG laser, I think you have heard about the Nd:YAG laser. In the Nd:YAG laser, it is a deuterium aluminum garnet, which is the basic material. But we have to add the Nd+3 ions. And the purpose of adding the Nd+3 ion is only to explore the atomic energy levels to exhibit more laser actions. Similarly, in case of the nanomaterials, the quantum confinement effect come into picture when you convert a bulk material into the nanostructure. So what is a quantum confinement effect? Basically what happens due to the reduction in the crystalline size of the materials, the electron-electron interactions, repulsion, it is more prominent as compared to the attractive forces, and hence the splitting of the energy level take place. The band gap gets broadened up, and this is called a quantum confinement effect. So if you want to understand it, this diagram is a very simple diagram, is indicating that how when you are approaching from bulk to nano, the band gap is increasing. It is basically the basic criteria is the Bohr radius. The Bohr exciton radius is just a distance between the electron and hole. Electron and hole is called a Bohr exciton, and the distance is called between their center is called a Bohr exciton radius. So the quantization effect become more important when the particle dimension of the semiconductor is near or below the bulk semiconductor Bohr exciton radius, making the property of the material size dependent. When the material is in the nano range, the very interesting thing is that the properties of the materials are the size dependent. For example, if you reduce the size of a bulk material, there is no effect on the band gap. But in case of the nanomaterials, once you play with the size of the material, suppose you convert the size from 20 nanometer to 50 nanometer or from 40 nanometer to 120 nanometer, the band gap automatically changes, right? Due to the change in the band gap, all other properties of the material drastically changes, even mechanical properties, electronic properties, magnetic properties and all. So this is the quantum confinement effect. Basically what happened, I give you the example of Nd:YAG laser. In the Nd:YAG laser, if I take the laser physics of the material, what happens if you use aluminum garnet as a material for the laser actions? The laser action is not possible because some of the transitions are forbidden. But when you add Nd+3 ion into the host of YAG, then what happens due to the splitting of the energy level, the possibility of the transition which were not earlier there become now probable. So this is the same application, same thing is applicable here in case of the nanomaterials. So if I take the example of the silicon now, I asked the question, can the bulk silicon be a LED? The answer was no. But when I say that nano silicon, yes, it can be LED, because when you convert this bulk silicon material or bulk germanium material into the nanoscale, what happens due to the quantum confinement effect, the broadening in the band gap take place, and the transitions which were earlier having a hurdle in between due to the defect states are now possible, and you can use these material like LEDs. And moreover, with the change in the size, if you change the size, nano size of these materials, the band gap will change, and you can create the LED, fabricate the light emitting diode giving different colors, because Eg is equal to Hc upon lambda. Everybody knows. So if the band gap changes, the wavelength changes and color will change. Another very important factor is surface to volume ratio. And I will use this concept in the further application. I will tell you that how this concept is very useful, even in the agriculture sciences, in the nano fertilizer. The concept is very simple. You know, the very simple principle of physics has created wonder. Just like a total internal reflection is a very simple principle, but total internal reflection has made revolution in the communication engineering by giving the theory of optical fiber communication. Similarly, the surface to volume ratio is a very simple concept, very geometrical concept, that if you suppose you divide, this is very simple, if you divide the cube, 1 meter cube, you will find that surface area is increasing. So similarly, when you convert a bulk material into the nanomaterial, the surface to volume ratio increases, right? Because volume decreases and surface increases, surface to volume ratio increases to a larger extent. And hence, the properties of the materials become different as compared to the bulk material. That I will show in the further slide. But you have to understand that what is the surface to volume ratio. Surface to volume ratio is simply the ratio of the surface to volume, which increases due to the change in the size of the material in the nanoscale, not otherwise. So if you compare, just a very simple thing, very simple concept, if you compare that what happen in bulk and what happen in nano-sized materials, when the size of the nanomaterial becomes comparable to their length, the entire material will be affected by surface property of the material. The phenomena becomes surface dependent because most of the atoms, they are on the surface. If you consider a 1 nanometer size, then 99% of the atoms, they are on the surface, right? So this is just you have seen that in 1 nanometer there are 10 hydrogen atoms, right? They are on the surface. So this in turn may enhance or modify the property of the bulk material as shown in this slide. For example, if you talk of the thermal property of any material, right? The heat transport is a very important factor in the thermal property because heat transport coefficient is related to the various other phenomenological coefficients through the various equations, right? So in the bulk material, this heat transport is done by electron, right? And whereas in case of the nano-sized material, it is carried out by phonons. And surface to volume ratio is quite large in the nano-sized material as compared to the bulk material. This is the basic reason for this transition, that the heat transport is carried by phonons, not by the electron. Similarly, if you talk of the magnetic property of a material, right, the superparamagnetism. If you talk of the superparamagnetism in the bulk, most of the bulk material is absent. But when you convert the same material into the nano-sized material, the superparamagnetism become prominent. Similarly, for the optical property, absorption, emission, reflection, coefficient, etc. of a particular material, so these are the material dependent. If you talk of the bulk material, if you talk of the absorption, emission, and reflection coefficient of a particular material, then these are the material dependent. You change the material, these coefficients changes. Whereas in case of the nano-sized material, because of the surface plasmon effect, these are the size dependent. They will only change, they will change. But if the material, no doubt with the material, if you change the material, this property will change. But for the same material, this property will also be changed due to the change in the size of the material. Okay. Now, at Chitkara University, so we are having a well-established nanomaterial research laboratory, which is known as NRL. And so many good communication from this lab has been produced, number of PhD has been produced. And in this lab, basically, we are working on semiconductor nanomaterial, magnetic nanomaterial, graphene materials, and their application of all these material in the various sectors, just like in the pharmaceutical sciences, agriculture sciences even, and in the physics and engineering also. Okay, so in our lab, we are using a very simple technique, which is called a chemical co-precipitation technique. I think Dr. Karamjit has given a detail about these all kind of techniques. So this is a very simpler technique because it is a, just playing with the atom, and you are growing a bigger material. You are not cutting a bigger material to the smaller material. You are just playing with the small constituents through the chemical reactions, and then you are obtaining a bigger material whose size is in the nanometer. So you are controlling the size, because the beauty of the technique is that you are adjusting the pH, and by adjusting the pH, you are controlling the size of the material, as well as the temperature and other factor is also affecting the size. Now, this technique is having certain advantages. That is why we are using it, because it is environmental friendly. It needs a very small setup, and it is easily scaled up for large synthesis of nanoparticle, and then no need of high pressure, temperature, energy, and toxic chemical. Even in this technique nowadays, we are using different kind of chemical like precursors and other materials, chemical which we want to use during the synthesis process. We can totally replace these chemical by herbal materials, and we are using so many herbal materials in our lab instead of chemical. So hence, you can say that this technique is environmental friendly. Then short reaction time, there is not a bigger time required, and high chemical homogeneity, with the particle grain size is very uniform. Rigorous stoichiometric control, you can control the particle size, grain size of the particle. Even I told you what is grain, what is particle, and what is crystal. It should be taken very clearly: crystal, grain, and then particle. Sometimes there is a confusion between all these three identities. Then high purity product is there. There is no damage to the product. In case of the other technique, the product sometimes mechanically get damaged due to various kind of stresses. Just like ball milling. In the ball milling process, the material get distorted. Then semiconductor nanomaterial. Just I will touch you this basic concept, and then I will tell you the applications. Now in this lab, we have synthesized various kind of variety of the semiconductor material. Number one. Number two, then we tried various kind of dopants in these materials, and we studied that how the dopant can further change the behavior of these nanomaterials. So semiconductor nanostructure, due to their size tunable, photo, physical and photochemical properties, are potential candidate for the next optoelectronic industrial applications. The semiconductor nanocrystal or quantum dot constitute a unique class of material that are intermediate between the molecular cluster and bulk solid. Because molecular electronics is something different, right? So people are also exploring the molecular electronics. Molecular scale is further less, very small in the nano, you can say in the nano scale, right? And then semiconductors are something higher than the molecular scale, but less than the bulk solids. So the very interesting things which is happening with the semiconductor material is, let us try to understand this very simple physics, a very simple analogy. Suppose you consider a nano semiconductor material. As I told you that when you convert the bulk material, bulk semiconductor material into the nano material, the broadening of the band gap takes place, right? Due to the broadening in the band gap, the possibility of getting electron trapped in between into the defect state or metastable state becomes very less. The probability becomes very less, but still it is probable, right? Due to that less probability, the direct transition probability becomes very large. So hence, these materials can be used in the photoelectronic applications. For example, if you excite an electron from valence to conduction band, it will go to the conduction band. Suppose it directly come back to the valence band, it is called a direct transitions. So this is a photoluminescence kind of phenomena, and the concept or this phenomena is very useful in the optoelectronic application. Other way around, suppose electron get trapped in some state, suppose T1, let us say T1, then after some time it will get relaxed and come back to the valence state again. This is called an indirect band gap. These kind of materials, they are called indirect band gap materials, and in this case the probability of direct transition is very less and the probability of indirect transition is high. So the recombination rate, you can say, is less in this case. In case of the indirect transitions, the recombination rate, when I say the recombination of electron and hole is very less in the indirect, and it is very large in case of the direct transitions. Okay, now suppose, see the wonder of the nanomaterials. You can make the material for the two-level application. Now suppose I want to use a nanomaterial for the photoluminescence application in the optoelectronic application. So I have to try that the recombination rate should be higher as compared to the indirect transitions. So what should I do? So what I did in my lab, so we synthesized nanomaterials. Then we started doping these nanomaterials with certain dopant across the periodic table, rare and transitions. Then we found that at particular optimum concentration of a particular dopant, the recombination rate is quite high. The material behaves efficient photoluminescent material at that particular concentration. So what we did at that particular concentration, we marked these materials for the photoluminescence or the optoelectronic devices applications. Okay. Then we started playing with the change with the concentration of the dopant. We started changing the concentration of the dopant, and then we realized that at particular concentration, the recombination rate becomes very small, and the indirect, the possibility, the probability of the indirect transition becomes quite high. So in this case, the rate of the formation of the free radical has been increased to a larger extent. So I have an electron and hole, free radical available with me. So what we did is then we explored these free radicals in the photocatalytic application. Everybody knows that if you suppose want to remove pollutant from any liquid, then we can use the photocatalytic action, because OH negative ion plus plus H ion, they will combine and make a water, and then will allow the impurity to wash away. So this second thing we explored in the environmental cleaning, right? So same material is acting as a LED also at a particular concentration, and then at another concentration, the same material may be explored for the cleaning of the environment, for cleaning of the water, from cleaning of the other things, right? Even cleaning of the clothes. If you put this particle on the cloth materials, so they will be dust repellent, right? So both applications, one in the electronics, other in the environmental science. So these are the synthesized nanomaterials which we use for the microwave engineering applications. So let me tell you again, it is very interesting. Now in the microwave engineering, we need sometime we need to absorb the electromagnetic wave for certain applications. Everybody knows that sometimes we want to transmit the electromagnetic wave, sometimes we want to absorb the electromagnetic waves. So in case of the bulk materials, we found the various absorbers are being used in the microwave engineering for the application as a microwave absorber, and their absorption is good. But when the same materials are tried in the nanoscale, the absorption has increased to many fold times. So this is another interesting application, an application which we carried in our lab. I am talking all the applications which have been carried out by myself in the lab, which we have tried. I'm not taking any data from net or other way from the दूसरों की application डाल के नहीं मैं दिखा रहा हूँ आप लोगों को. The real work which we are performing at our place. So we synthesized various kind of the nanomagnetic material for the application, for their application as microwave absorber. So I will not go for the structural detail of these material because the characterization I think has been done by Dr. Karamji. Now see here, very interesting. So suppose if you see this graph, everybody knows the BH curve. More is the area under the BH curve, more is the magnetic loss, right? So in the electromagnetic wave, when you say absorption of the electromagnetic wave, so I mean, we want to lose, the electromagnetic wave must lose something, right? So this magnetic loss, if more is the magnetic loss, more will be the absorption. So this is the clear indication. If you say one side it is a amorphous material, other side it is a crystalline material. Amorphous means it's a bulk material, not in the nanoscale. Whereas on the other side is in the nanoscale. One side the area under the BH curve is small, and I found that when I change the material from amorphous to crystalline in bulk to nano, the area under the BH loop has increased. So this shows that these materials absorb more as compared to the bulk material. Further, you can verify the fact by calculating the DC electric resistance using the 2-pro method. So हमने दूसरा test भी इसका किया कि what happened to the DC electric resistance. Again we found the same kind of result in favorable to the previous results. So adding first we found that when you change the bulk to the nano, the DC resistance increases. Then we tried that we added certain dopants, and we further found that adding dopant increased the scattering events, thereby increasing the frictional forces to the flow of current, and hence the DC electric current increases. So both ways, if you compare these two, if you take up these two slides combined jointly, so the electromagnetic wave means consisting of electric and magnetic field. So both kind of losses are increasing when you change a bulk material to the nano materials. Now this is just the nano LEDs, which I was talking, the application of materials in the nanowire light emitting diodes. So you can make the nanowires of the semiconductor materials in order to increase the efficiency, photoluminescence efficiency increases because you can play with the material and you can fabricate these materials in the different shapes, synthesize the material in the different shapes like dot, wire, rods, etc. And this definitely change the efficiency. Same material has a different efficiency. So nano wire LEDs, they are very efficient. And whereas the quantum dot nano semiconductor materials are efficient as far as the solar devices applications are concerned. So graphene as a material. Another material I tried in my lab is the graphene material. Basically, what we did is we synthesized graphene from the graphite in our lab. So this is the structure of the graphene. Everybody knows. I'm not to explain it much. So from graphene oxide we synthesize. Now there are two things very important which we came across while doing this research. Suppose you have a graphene oxide, nano graphene oxide is having its own application. But if you reduce oxygen, if you remove oxygen from nano graphene oxide, the applications spectrum increases more. You can use that material widely for very more number of applications. So that attempt has been done by us. So what we did is we synthesized graphene oxide from the graphite using the simple chemical co-precipitation method, in which we used various kind of precursors, just herbal precursor we used, and then extract of trees. Himalayan, the trees are there in the Himalayan range. We use the extract of those trees, which works good as a chemical to reduce the graphene oxide to the graphene. So very interestingly, we found that when we use these precursors, the graphene oxide can be reduced to the graphene. And what happened? Let me try to explain it. So basically what happened is a very simple concept. Suppose you are having a layer of a nano material, right? Most of the atoms, they are on the surface, right? And the defects are also on the surface because material is having so many kind of defects. Now, as the material is in the nano range, right? And the defect, when the atoms they appear on the surface, the defect appears to be cylindrical, geometrically. When you see from the surface, the most of the defects, they become cylindrical. Hydrogen being smallest in the periodic table, if I leave hydrogen on the surface of such material, what should happen? The hydrogen should diffuse through the defects because the material is already in the nanometer range and hydrogen is the smallest one. So 10 hydrogen give 1 nanometer. I told you just. So hydrogen may diffuse through the sides of the through the pores of these defects, which behave cylindrical, geometrically as predicted mathematically through the theoretical research when the material is in the nanoscale. So while when the hydrogen will diffuse through this defect, it will get ionized, H plus ions, and hence it will be a protonic flow. So you can use this concept to make the proton battery. Same I did in our lab. So this is the real picture of the proton flow battery which we made, and it is our patent also. Right? One of my students has done PhD on this topic. So what we did is we used graphene first, graphene oxide, and graphene oxide given us good result. Then we thought that if we remove oxygen from the graphene oxide nanostructure, so I will be able to create more pores in the material. Porosity will increase naturally because I am removing something from the material, so I am creating more defect. So it will increase the efficiency of the hydrogen diffusion. The same concept was applied to this problem, and this worked well. So we compared the graphene oxide and reduced graphene oxide. We found in the reduced graphene oxide, the efficiency of the diffusion of the hydrogen is much more as compared to that in the graphene oxide, right? So hence the refused graphene oxide we used to fabricate an electrode. So I will not go into the detail of this electrode because how we made this electrode. So we made this electrode, and then electrochemically we calculated all the factors as for a normal battery using this simple setup, and we found that the material is very good. Flow battery.
I send you my
Yes, please.
मैं चल दिया
मेरा कैमरा बंद कर
Yes, please. So then another is the magnetic iron oxide nanoparticle. Another application, just I was telling you in the beginning that we should use the research for application in the various sector. The prime sector is the technology, for the upliftment of technology. The other one is health. I mean, then agriculture is also some part of health, right? And then environmental cleaning. So just like I give you the example of environmental cleaning, similarly I will come to the application in the field of health sciences also. So nanomagnetic materials, these are the very extraordinary material nowadays. The people are working to explore these materials in a different kind of application, just like in the imaging and then cancer curing, even in the microwave engineering, and so many, and in the magnetic, the electromagnetic field. So we synthesized iron oxide nanomaterial in our lab through this chemical co-precipitation technique. Very simple technique I have shown. You take the chemical, ultimately you get the powdered form of a nanomaterial. Now, what happens is, the very interesting thing for this kind of material I found is that the ferrimagnetism, the super paramagnetism behavior of these materials. I told you in the bulk it is not possible. So when you convert these materials from bulk to nano, the super paramagnetism behavior increases. Suppose if you compare the bulk BH curve of a bulk materials to the nano BH curve of a nanomaterial. So the BH curve shown is for the nano. You see that it is a line, just like a line. It is not a loop, right? So the super paramagnetism material becomes super paramagnetic. Magnetic losses are reduces to zero almost, and the curve is reversible with no porosity and no remnants. So this phenomenon is called the super paramagnetism. When the loop is reduced to a line, the curve is reversible. So we found this is the real curve of the nanomagnetic materials which we synthesized in our lab. We found that the curve is like this curve, and the materials behave like super paramagnetic material with zero coercive force, and there is no field is required to reduce their magnetism to zero. Now this is the actual curve, BSM, from the BSM as I shown. This is again the same line. This is the actual curve, and that was a model curve. So application of these material you can use in the various kind of fields, like in drug delivery also. In the drug delivery, it is very important because in the drug delivery, in the pharmaceutical sciences, I have done some work with the pharmaceutical expert also. So we have used this material, the silver nanoparticle, in the drug delivery system. So drug delivery, what are the drug delivery demands? Drug delivery demand is that the salt which we want to insert inside the body should be carried efficiently by some carrier, right? So the carrier may be a nano particle, because what is the basic reason behind that? Because when you convert a bulk material to the nanomaterial, the chemical potential of the material increases many-fold time. So its chemical reactivity also increases, and the interaction of the drug with the body is just a chemical reaction. So once the chemical reaction is enhanced, then drug can effectively work inside the body. So that is the basic principle, basic concept of the physics. So similarly, but the challenge is that the nanoparticle which we are using to carry the drug inside the body, right, should be washed out after doing the work. Otherwise, if it remains inside the body, it will be difficult. It will harm the body. Number one, and number two, it should be biocompatible. It should be biocompatible. Drug should be biocompatible. It should not be poison to the body, right? It should be let's say silver. Silver is not damaging the body at all. Silver is rather helpful for the body. So we have to search for the nanoparticles which are helpful for the body, which may carry the drug inside the body, so that they are not harming the body. They are not creating any toxicity. So toxicity tests are performed before we use any nanoparticle in the drug delivery system, because a big challenge is when you convert a bulk material into the nanomaterial, its toxicity also increases many-fold times. Just like I told you, chemical activity increases, chemical potential increases, right? Toxicity also increases at the same rate. So if you consider a silver nanoparticle, bulk silver nanoparticle with a nano silver nanoparticle, it is toxic. The toxicity of the nano silver particle is higher, so it is more dangerous, right? So we have to make it biocompatible by using certain techniques. And other property I told you, other applications are the magnetic imaging, magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, MPI. These are the two different techniques. And magnetic separation of the particle through magnetic technology. So these are the various kind of magnetic material, application of the magnetic material. Sorry. Now, this is one example, the real data. We applied these nanomagnetic material for curing cancer cells. Basically, how cancer spread. I'm not a biological scientist, but the basic mechanism I know as a physicist is that the cancer cell, they go on multiplying like a nuclear chain reaction. So anyhow, if you are able to stop this reaction, just like in the reactor, you are putting rod and stopping the reaction, and for the peaceful purpose of energy. Similarly, if you can insert certain that kind of rod in this process, so the propagation of cancer may be stopped to a certain extent. The patient may get some time, right? So what we tried is we tried nanomagnetic materials. So we found that we took the real cancer cells and then we applied these nanomagnetic materials on those cancer cells in a particular laboratory at a particular place. Then we found that the propagation rate of these cancer cells has been reduced by these nanoparticles because these nanomagnetic particles make a conjugation with the cancer cells, and due to their high chemical activity, they reduce the chemical activity of the cancer cell for the further growth. So this is the simple science which they are using to stop the propagation of the cancer. So this is the application in the medical science. This is one example. Now, nanotechnology, another question is, a very important question arises in the mind when we are saying nano, but we are not able to see anything nano in the market, right? So nanotechnology based product, and then how to do them successful commercialization. It is a big challenge all over the globe, right? Because many products, they are not seen in the market right now, right? So what are the reasons? Which I think is my idea, a sufficient patent protection is required. Then easy scalability is also a one factor, right, for the growth of these product to the commercializations. Then multidisciplinary research is required. Just I told you that I am a physicist. I know that the nano silver particles, these are the properties of the nano silver particle, or what these are the property of the nano magnetic iron oxide particles, right? But a person from the biological background, from the pharmaceutical background, because biological, pharmaceutical background both should be there. The high experts should be there from that field, which can suggest me that how to use these particles for these kind of application. So multidisciplinary research has to be done in that respect. Only then we can reach from the product to the commercialization. Then sufficient safety data. What happening in the nanoscience research is, I am also a researcher publishing many papers, almost in pharmaceutical application also, agriculture application also, and electronics and physics application also. What I found is, so the data is there, so many data is there, right? But that data is not interpreted correctly at some one platform where we can find that how the material can be better useful for the various kind of application. So sufficient data safety is one threat, one necessity. Then building of industry. It is a big challenge because when we say that we have to make a bioconjugation of a silver nanoparticle with a particular drug, so for that I need an industry also, a unit also. And so when I want to make a tablet of this conjugation, I need a unit also, pharmaceutical unit also. So this building of industry is another factor. Now let me show you, this is my product, our product, Energy Bar, fresh and tasty. You will wonder to see that a person from the physics background, and we are working in the field of food sciences also. So here we made this energy bar, and this energy bar is available in the market also, right? And it has been tested as per the food science norms. So in this energy bar, the concept of the nanotechnology is used. You know that what is the role of a energy bar? Energy bar, when you eat, it should give you the instant energy, right? And as I told you that nanoparticles, they are very active chemically, and so hence that properties can be well used in this concept also. So it will give you energy in a very smaller time as compared to the normal energy bar. So this energy bar made at our place, and we have a patent for that also. This is the hand wash, another very interesting thing. Again, the hand wash, when you wash your hand, what is the hand wash? It is just a chemical reaction of the soap or the detergent, whatsoever it is, with the hand, with the impurity lying on the hand, right? Fast is the reaction, chemical reaction, fastly it will remove. A smaller quantity will be required to remove the, the larger amount of the impurities, right? So this is the herbal hand wash. So we use the herbal, I'm not going to disclose the whole formula for that, sorry, but we use the herbal, solutions, and then we converted those herbal solutions into the nano solutions, and then it is made. And the patent, again, it is our patent. And this product is also available in the market, and our university is using this product also. Another very interesting, this is a nano fertilizer. So last paddy crops, we tried it. We synthesized nano materials, and Dr. Tiwari, the picture seen in the Tiwari, Dr. Tiwari is an agriculture scientist. And what we did is we had done a trial on the Basmati 1509 at Chitkara University, Rajpura. At one place we made this arrangement, and क्योंकि इसको 1 साल हो गया है, तो हमने इसके जो टेस्ट है वो भी कर लिया, हमारा एक पेपर भी चला गया है इस पे. So successfully we have found. The purpose was, what was the purpose basically was, number one, okay, what happened to the growth rates, right? When you use the, हमने क्या किया, एक जगह बल्क फर्टिलाइजर यूज किया, एक जगह पे सेम क्वांटिटी में नैनो फर्टिलाइजर यूज किया, right? So number one purpose was of the research was that what happened to the growth. Number two, what happened to the grain? Growth is there, but what happened to the grain? What happened to the grain means उसका जो उसकी वैल्यू है, उसमें कोई टॉक्सिसिटी तो नहीं आई, उसकी टॉक्सिसिटी कम हुई है, ज्यादा हुई है. अगर ग्रोथ तो ज्यादा हो गई है लेकिन टॉक्सिसिटी उसकी बढ़ गई है, तो नो यूज, रिसर्च इज ऑफ नो यूज. उसके जो कंटेंट्स हैं, उसमें प्रोटीन कंटेंट्स हैं, फाइबर कंटेंट्स हैं, व्हाटसोएवर इट इज, जो भी होता है ग्रेन में, वो वाले कंटेंट्स को क्या हुआ, यूजफुल कंटेंट उसके बड़े हैं. अगर यूजफुल कंटेंट उसके बड़े हैं और हार्मफुल कंटेंट कम हुए हैं, तो रिसर्च इज वेरी सक्सेसफुल. So just I told you in the previous slide that a lot of threats are there with the nanotechnology research. So we are taking care of all those threats. So we tried these nano fertilizer successfully in field at Chitkara University, and we found very interesting result. And these results has been communicated to a journal of soil and fertilizer, and hopefully the paper will come soon. So what are the risks in the nanotechnology? We must understand when we talk of the nanotechnology industry, when we talk of the nanotechnology product, we must understand what are the risk factors. Business risk involved with the marketing is a bigger risk, risk related to the protection of intellectual property right. Then critical risk regarding the impact on economical development of countries and region. Again, it is global risk. Risk regarding privacy is also one of the risks. Environmental risk from the release of nanoparticles, because these nanoparticles both way works. When they are used for betterment, they act very sharply, and they should also act sharply in the negative direction also, because their chemical activity, chemical potential is quite high. So environmental risk is also a major threat. Safety risk from the nanoparticle for the worker and consumer. It becomes very reactive in the lab. Even when we are working, if you touch the nanoparticles, it gives irritation. So you can imagine that how reactivities. Then there is a risk when we apply these kind of research on the humans, because humans are human, they are not machines. So it is very risky. So when we apply such kind of research, just like I told you, energy bar, this nano agriculture. So when you apply on the human, so it is very risky. We have to go through the side by side other kind of researches, lot of other kind of research is required when you try to implement this nanotechnology in any sector. So how can you risk handling? On the other hand, it seems neither feasible nor appropriate to start a debate about the general exclusion of nanotechnology. अभी हम ऐसा नहीं बोल सकते कि ये तो इसमें रिस्क है तो इसको निकाल दो या इसको लगा दो. So nanotechnologies cover a very broad field with far from uniform risk characteristics. Terminology used in the nanotechnology is very broad. No uniform language or set of definition exists for that. The sheer variety of nanotechnology and their application across the broad sections of industrial segments is there. The exposure of the general population to the nanotechnology is still very low, comparatively low. Well, how many of us are using energy bar? How many of us are using this hand wash? So there are certain ethical considerations. Now, systematically we are approaching. Systematically, we just in the starting of my lecture, I given you what is nano, and then what are the certain nanomaterial, how they are used in the environment, health, agriculture, etc. Then we come across what are the threat with this technology, and what are the things which we must do to develop the industry for these kind of technologies, and now what are the ethical considerations, right? So then who is responsible for preventing and dealing with possible harm to health or environment? There should be certain laws. How can we intellectual property right be defined and defended when the boundary line between the nanoscience and nanotechnology is there? There is a difference between science and technology. When it comes from the simple chemical potential to the hand wash, then who is responsible to creating all these kind of intellectual property rights? So this is a one question. How can the public's right to know about technology and that may affect their life be balanced against the innovator's right to protect the trade secrets? It's very important, because a trade secret should be there, but on the other way, a threat is to the human is also there, right? So both ways, how to create a balance. What priority should be placed on developing new products and technique that will be highly beneficial for some people versus defending the interest of the individual and group of other people, right? So these are all questions, ethical considerations. Now, these are few of the nanotechnology startups which are virtually existing, actually existing all over the world. Nanomaterial and nanomaterial processing is a unit, bigger unit. They are processing and synthesizing nanomaterial. The nanobiotechnology. The nanobiotechnology is a unit in which they are playing with the molecular electronics and molecular biochips and biocomputer chips are developed. The nanosoftware, because when you talk of the biomolecular computer, so you need a software to write the Boolean algebra for the same. This is how a good example that how the industry they are parallelly existing, right? You have a nanobiotechnology in which the biotechnology is used to make the molecular electronic chips. On the other side, there should be a nano software unit, right? Then nanophotonics. Nanophotonics is a wider unit in which the optoelectronic industry and the other optical industries also there. Nanoelectronics is a separate branch of electronics nowadays. In some of the good foreign university, there is a subject of nanoelectronics. Then nano instrumentation, because when you talk of all these things, nano instrumentation automatically come into picture. Because when you will develop a instrument, nano instrument, the nano instrumentation strategies, nano instrumentation formulation should also grow. So thank you very much for listening me. Thank you. Any question, please? So hope I have completed in time. So I was given, I think, 10:15 by Dr. Manish ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sir. It was very informative and interesting lecture. So now I request all the participants to please share their videos so that we can take a picture from all the participants.
So there are some questions from the participants.
Yes, sir. Yes,
the
sir.
first question is how to prepare good conductive nanocontacts. How to prepare a good conductive nanocontact.
Conductive nano?
Contact.
Contact.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good question. You want contacts. Nano conductive contact. Conductive means conductivity. You mean, eh? I
Yes,
think.
sir.
Okay. So how to increase the conductivity? This is your question basically. Huh?
Yes.
Okay. So just like I have shown you that when you convert a material into the nanoscale, right? एक मैंने एग्जांपल दिया जिसमें मैंने ये दिखाया कि डीसी रेजिस्टेंस इंक्रीजेस. तो डीसी रेजिस्टेंस इंक्रीजेस मीन यहाँ पे तो कंडक्टिविटी कम है, तो डिफरेंट मटेरियल डिफरेंट बिहेव इन अ डिफरेंट फैशन. So whereas if you take up the example of the some of the other material, just like if you take the example of the nano gold materials, right? Even silver material, noble material जो है, if you convert these into the nano scales, right? So few of the researchers have found that conductivity has increased many times as compared to the bulk material, right? So it depends on the nature of the material, right? Same materials, you cannot take the same material to increase the conductivity or to enhance the magnetism. Okay. So different material, different, because they behave in a very extraordinary fashion. It may happen that conductivity increases but magnetism get altered, right?
Yes. Yes. So there is another question. Name a few herbal material used in your lab. One of the examples you already discussed, herbal hand wash. Is there any material apart from that which we use?
Neem, tulsi, ilachi, jamun,
Yes.
right?
Okay. Right.
The material which we are using in our lab. हम इनका पाउडर बनाते हैं, पहले क्रश करते हैं, ठीक है, फिर उसको नैनो स्केल में कन्वर्ट करते हैं थ्रू आवर टेक्निक.
Okay, right, sir.
देवदार ट्री है, देवदार हिमालयन ट्रीज हैं, तुलसी है, इलायची है, इवन जामुन है, आंवला है, many.
Okay, right, sir. Thank you. Okay, thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite our worthy principal, sir, Dr. R.S. Jhanji ji, to address the participant and give vote of thanks to our spokesperson, Dr. I.L. Sandhu.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. At the very outset, I am very thankful to Dr. Inderjeet Singh Sandhu, Department of Physics, Chitkara University, for sparing time and addressing our faculty and the students. And I think that since yesterday, we have been listening about nanotech. A person, a layman like me, even could understand what nanotechnology is and what are its products and how to use the elements. And moreover, the beauty of these online webinars, I am on my way and I have stopped side and on the roadside, and this you see that everybody, this is the beauty of the online webinars. Otherwise, I could have skipped this webinar, and I could most of the discourse I listened to, and you see the faculty and the students, they have to adapt to it, and I think this will become a part of our life. And regarding the nanotechnology, Dr. Saab, since yesterday, Dr. Tariwal also, and both of you, I think this is a new term for a layman. For science students, it may not be there. They're very well aware about nanotechnology and its products. And I'm surprised that this nanotechnology has its impact on the economy of the nation, on the economy, and on the agriculture side, and on the industry also. And if it's used judiciously, as you said, this could do wonders and could bring revolutions. So I think many things are to be done, but I don't know the cost factor of this nanotechnology. And if you could just, as a layman, I could ask you, okay, what is the cost factor? And to channelize into its productivity. I don't know.
Just like I told in my last of the 3-4 slides, where I have taken up the ethical considerations and development of a product to commercialization, and what are the risks. So during that discussions, I told that this cost factor is a very big factor involved in this technology. So we have to study first the cost factor. In somewhere it is very less. Just like if I talk of the example of a hand wash, let me give you a live example. The cost of my university has reduced 1/3. it will be very interesting to know. The hand wash we were using earlier in the university, right? Now we are using a nano hand wash. The cost factor has reduced 1/3. So this is a one example. So in some cases the cost factor may reduce, but in some cases it may increase also. Depends on the type of the application. Just like in the nano fertilizer, the cost factor is definitely reduced because you have to use a less fertilizer, right? As compared to the bulk fertilizer, and productivity is more. The cost factor is going to reduce. The only thing is, which I told in my slide also, that how to commercialize it, how to set up the units. Once the units are set up, the major threat with the researcher is that infrastructure is not available. Right? If we, instead of a bulk fertilizer unit, if we are having a nano fertilizer unit, suppose, or in the same unit, if there is arrangement of making it nano, it will be a wonder. With the no additional cost factor, we can reduce the cost of the farmer. So this is how we can answer this question.
So great, Dr. Saab, thank you very much, and I congratulate physics department for organizing such type of webinars, and thank you very much once again on behalf of AS College Khanna and management and all the faculty members, students. I am thankful to you, and we look forward to many more interactions of on nanotechnology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Principal Sir.
Dr. Manish.
Thank you, Principal Sir. In the closing ceremony, I would like to thank to our both the speakers for their intellectual and very informative talks. I also would like to thank to our college management, and special thanks to our worthy Principal Sir, Dr. R.S. Jhanji ji, for their motivational support to conduct this event. I also present my thanks to Dr. Vivek Bhamri, Head of the Computer Science Department, and his team for their cooperation to conduct this workshop on Zoom app media. I also would like to thank to all the members of Physics Department for their untidy efforts since last week to organize this workshop. At the last but not the least, I also thanks to all the participants for their dedication, precious time, and efforts to make this event such a success. Thanks to everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, participants. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now I request all the participants, please switch on their camera so that we can take a click of today's session. Dr. Vivek ji, please take a click.
Okay, sir, it is done.
Okay, thank you, Vivek sir.
Okay.
Thank you to everyone.